You see, there's an example here. It says also in the annual parsha, Wayarim. Ayorim. What's an ayar? An ayar is like a donkey, right? Ayin Yud Reish Yud Mem. Okay, it says there's a list of animals that all the animals that Yaakov gave as a bribe to Esav. That's the pasuk in the Torah where every single word ends with a mem sofit. Right? There's a question for the kids, right? Right in the second aliyah. Okay, the list of the animals. So it should be ayorim with a chataf patach under the ayin. At yorim. Now, if it would regularly be, if you'd have a vav hachibur there before him with a shava, so now the vav should get a regular patach. Wa ayorim. But in this case, the word is vowelized strangely. The ayin has a shava nach. Wa yorim. Okay, and yorim. Now this is kind of weird because now this word wouldn't have existed if you take away the shava, the vav, the prefix vav, the vav achibur, you'd be left with a word that starts with an ayin with a shava nach, which is weird. What's going on there? So it turns out this actually happens. There's certain words which on their own would have started with a guttural letter with some sort of chataf something, chataf patach or chataf kamatz or chataf segol, right? But when they are preceded by a prefix, they become nach. Sometimes even nach nistar. Nach means they just close the syllable or they're totally silent. I'll give you another example. It says that there's a place where the 10 tribes are taken away to. So it says the king of Assyria exiled them to the east. Okay, past Bavel, to Persia and Afghanistan and places like that, right? So it says one of the places he sent them was a place called Halah. Okay, or just Halach. It's spelled. He says he settled them in Halach, where there's a bet prefix with a patach underneath it, and then the name of the place is spelled Chet Lamed Chet, and the first Chet has a shava, not a chataf patach, just a shava. So you pronounce it Bahlah in Hlah. Okay, now in Arabic they do have certain words that start with, let's say, a het with a shavan, with the equivalent of a shavan na, and not even a chataf patach. Okay. What?
Shiva na or na?
With a shiva na, an Arabic equivalent thereof. So this place should be halah, but in this particular case, this form, it loses its chataf patach and just gets a regular shiva. And another example, the asaf suf. Okay, the word only occurs once in the Torah with a prefix hey hayidi beforehand. The word on its own should be asaf suf. It's means it's another word for mixed multitude. Like the Erev Rav, what's called Erev Rav in Sefer Shmos is called the Asaf Suf in Sefer Bamidbar. They're referring to the same thing. They have similar idea behind them. Asaf Suf means we're gathered in. But as you know, when you read Parshas Baloscha, so in Parshas Baloscha, you know that aleph is totally silent. It says not Ha Asaf Suf, it says the Ha Saf Suf. We read it as though the aleph were entirely silent. Okay, so here we have examples of words that start with aleph, ayin, and het, where there should be a shava na, at least vowelizing the first guttural letter, but because of the prefix, they don't even have any vowelization really. They have just a shava nach, or it's a nach nistar. The aleph that's not pronounced in that case is called nach nistar. Silent aleph entirely. Okay, so that is something that we've seen before. How did the guy read Katonti today? That's what you probably are in a synagogue where they were reading the annual cycle parsha. So what's the Trope on Katonti? You don't know? Okay, do you could guess? Someone there will want to offer or fight? I want to hear two answers. Okay, one guy's just grinning at me. Well, it doesn't help. Hold on 1 second. Let me share the screen. Screen. Sorry, I'm just getting used to this new stuff. Select a tab. Window. Running notes. Share. So if I double click on it, it still makes me have to confirm my choice. Interesting. I don't see what I'm sharing. Does everybody see this? Okay, yeah, it shows up in the window. Okay, look at this. There is I guess you could call this as a type of machlokes between the different printings. What is the vowel, the trop on this word? Katonti mikol chasadim mikol ha'emet. So someone was asking me about this year and asking me about this last year and the year before that. So maybe we should just put this into a video. Torah Kore, which is great. Tommy Torah, he was putting this out every single week for a year or 2 years, and then he stopped. But he did very phenomenal work. I don't know who it was. I think it was a fellow in Netanya, really knows Dikduk, and also has these two disagreements with the Rabbi Mazuz, the ones we discussed. We're going to discuss another one next week, even though it's in this week's Parsha. There's two things that Rabbi Mazuz has that are questionable or controversial. And over here, we look at this Trope. Katonti mikol hasadim mikol ameth. That's the way we grew up. The older Chumashim have it with geresh, azla geresh, single geresh on this word. Why is it a geresh? Because the rule is when you have a single word like this that should have a fourth level stop, if it's accented on the last syllable, you have gershayim. By the way, if the word gershayim were to be in the Torah, it would never have the Trop gershayim. It would always have a geresh, because it's mil el, not mil ra. Okay, so this is mil el, so it gets a gerish. If it was katonti, it would be gershayim katonti, but this is katonti, so it has a gerish, at least according to this tradition. How do you parse this pasuk? If you could see this in front of you, if you want, come and look at our screen. So katonti in this case is a fourth level stop, and the pashta is a third level stop. So this would mean that you parse the pasuk katonti b'kol hasadim umikol ha'emeth asher asita avdecha kivim makli avarti et erdin hazeh v'atayiti l'shnei machanoth. That's how they divide it up, if the Trop is indeed a gerish over here. Now, it turns out that in some of the source kisvegad, it's a raviyah. Now, what is the nafkamina? A raviyah is a greater stop than a gerish. And in this series, when you have what's called the tchum shilton of a melech, like a zakef katon, that's what called. It's a great level stop. Okay, over here, the etnach is called an emperor stop. Okay, it's just as much as a siluk. It has all the same behaviors as a siluk. It's the one that's not the end of the pasuk. So over here, this thing's called the melech. So he mishnel melech. That's the pashta, and katonti is also a mishnel melech. So this is a first level stop. This is a second level. Melech is second level, and the chasodim has a pashta that's a third level, and the raviyah is also a third level stop. Same, equal to or greater than the pashta. And when you have a series like this, raviyah, pashta in before zakef katon, the raviyah is the greater stop. So what this means over here, why do they prefer this, by the way? Those who changed it, Korain was the first one. Korain was quite popular, at least for a few decades. Why are people asking me? If I'm live now, then I'm not going to be able to answer the question. So let me send this. People want to join. Hold on one second. Good. Okay. So this is a greater stop over here. The raviyah is a greater stop. So what? And they like this one because they say that what does katonti mean?
It was diminished.
Well, in this case, you read that like Onkelos and Rashi means I'm not worthy. Okay, or I've had a lot of zechuyos used up. Okay, this is basically taking away. Look, we grew up with Uncle Maishi. You do mitzvah, you gain points in the bank, and you do averas, you lose points in the mitzvah bank of Olam Haba, right? And if God does all sorts of good things for you, then you're basically using up your mitzvah points in your bank account, and you might not have anything left for Olam Haba. Now, that's a very simplistic, childish way of viewing these things, but it works for our purposes. Saying I'm not worthy, or I've basically had my divine bank account depleted by all that you have done for me. So in this case, it seems logical, okay? I'm just going to say that shot-wise, it seems logical that the greater stop within this particular section of Pasuk should be a katonti. Here it is, I have been diminished, or I am not worthy, because mikol chasadim, mikol emeth, because of the kindness and truth. By the way, truth is a type of kindness. God does truth, and then there's chesed shel emeth, true kindness. Okay, that's what emeth means. Look it up, use a concordance. You'll find a lot of times emeth is type of doing good for someone else that they deserve. Right? He deserved it at the time, but Yaakov was saying, I've been diminished. And they like it also because katonti with the geresh, at least in the way the Ashkenazim read it, it sounds almost arrogant if you say it with a flourish, which is the geresh. Katonti, which is ironic because someone pointed out the lower level the stop, the more musical notes it has on it. So gershayim and Azla Gerish or Kadma Azla and a Pazer have a lot of notes to them, yet they're the lowest level stops. Okay, so this one sounds better. Katonti, Ravia, which is, by the way, has nothing to do with the way the Ashkenazim call it, the Ravi'i, the fourth. No, Ravia is Aramaic. Ravia means rovates, crouching. Okay, yeah, and also what has in Aramaic the present tense verb form has kamatz chirik instead of cholam tzerei, because cholam downgraded becomes a kamatz in Aramaic, and tzerei downgraded is a chirik. Yes, there's a lot of examples about it. Tzerei downgraded is a chirik. So how do you say boteach in Aramaic? Rachitz. Okay, be'ano rachitz. It doesn't mean bo ani rochetz. It means bo ani boteach. Be'ano rachis means bo ani boteach. So katonti in this case, it sounds better to say katonti. I've been minimized. I am not worthy. So the ravia fits better. And there are some girsas that have it. And according to the grammar, it makes more sense. If you would say keep the katonti as a geresh, it would be katonti b'kol chasadim umikol ameth, which is strange because katonti is referring to the verb here. It's what has happened to me. It's the subject and the verb included in one word. I have been diminished from what? From all the chasadim and the ms. Or I am not worthy of what? Different parts of speech here. If you leave this as a garish, it's I am been diminished or I'm not worthy of all the kindness and of all the truths. The truth is a type of kindness. So it makes more sense. And not only that, now it's parallel to the second half of the pasuk, which also has a raviyah, pashta, zakef katon series. Kivim akli, avarti athiademazeh. If you were to, let's say, parse the second part of the pasuk or put trop like the first part, what would you get? You'd get kivim akli, avarti athiademazeh. So avarti would be the greater stop. Kivim akli avarti. No, it doesn't sound right. Vimakli is modifying the way he traversed this Jordan River. So Katonti, I hate to say it, is less traditional because less Kisveyot have it this way. And it wasn't the way we grew up, but it has two advantages. It seems to fit the grammar better, and the musical note on it is more fitting for what he's trying to say, whichever shot you go with. There's a big nafkamina saying, I've been diminished or I'm not worthy. Okay, they're different, but the idea is similar. Yaakov Avinu is saying that now he's a little bit worried that he doesn't deserve it, or for whatever reason, to be saved from Yaakov Avinu, from Esav. Yeah, it should be Uchtaftam al mezuzot beitecha uvisharecha. If it was the way I'm saying it, Uchtaftam is a lesser stop. It should be Uchtaftam. Okay, with a zakef gadol. Uchtaftam al mezuzot beitecha uvisharecha. No, so there's a big nafkamina there. Okay? Uchtavtam al mezuzot beithecha is referring to your commandment to what? Put mezuzahs on your houses. What's uvisharecha mean? Yes. Whose job is to put the mezuzah up at the city? By the way, there's a good question. The old city of Jerusalem, you know what it needs mezuzahs on its gates. So at certain gates they have it, but gates where they have too many anti-Semites, which is crazy. In Jerusalem, the anti-Semites dictate a lot of things. Did you know a few years ago, the so-called Kahanists tried to put a mezuzah on Damascus Gate? And you know what happened? No, they got taken out. It was a whole incident. How dare you put a mezuzah on a Jewish town? Okay? Whose responsibility is it to put a mezuzah on the town gate? Yes, the Beis Din sits at it. So you are not going to say, you know what? This town doesn't have mezuzah at its gate. Remember, any town worth its salt had a wall and a gate, and the gate requires a mezuzah. It's not your job. Your job is you can't even sleep in your house one night without a mezuzah, right? That's what we hold. In Eretz Yisrael, you don't get 30 days. Night. We've had it. How often does it happen around here that someone moves into an apartment? For some reason, people take down the mezuzahs, which you're not supposed to do. And this happened many times. Hey, I'm not the sofer, but I know I have the hookup. I have a spare mezuzah, and I know people who are sofer here. Thank God there are a lot of soferim. Suddenly comes evening time. You moved into your new apartment. I can't sleep here unless I stick up a mezuzah, right? So that's your personal responsibility. Bisharecha, the fact that the town doesn't have mezuzah, you don't have to walk out. That's a Beis Din's job. That's the tzibur's mitzvah. So that makes more sense. Uchtav tamal mezuzot beithecha uvisharecha. Okay. And by the way, in the grammar, if it's al mezuzot beithecha, if it was talking about mezuzot beithecha was like sharecha, it should be uchtov tam al mezuzot beithecha wish ush arecha. Okay. Okay. It would have followed clearly. Uvi sharecha. And I mean, you should also do this in bisharecha. So that's why I don't think that that's the case, and I think that actually proves the point better. Okay, good. So now we're going to that guy's question. You in TV land. Well, what's the question?
Yes. To what extent are those arguments good? In the sense that if we have the manuscripts, which we do, and at least the Keter Amtsova has the Girish, why should we care so much what sounds nicer?
Yeah.
Or even what makes more sense. I mean, we have plenty of things that are spelled very strangely in the Tanakh that would make sense to spell otherwise.
And by the way, this isn't the only case where we have chilufei girsos about minor tropes. Okay, so I don't know. I'm not the one who decides these. I don't have everything at my disposal. Rabbi Breuer, by the way, who felt that he was, I guess, qualified to make all these hachras, went with the Gerish, by the way, as you know.
Yeah.
That's the way it is in Mosada Rav Kook publications. So I wouldn't do such a thing. I'm just arguing, showing you why it is that whoever did it. I don't know who was the ones who decided how to do the original Koran. And by the way, I was involved in certain decisions with the new Koran things. And by the way, I fully endorse everything they did, even though I told you a lot of times I was voted down, right? The fact that they started putting in Kamatz Katan, they marked the Kamatz Katan differently, following the Rinat Yisrael and other publishers that only began in the 70s. And I was against that, but whatever, I don't know why changes are made a lot of times, and I don't know who makes the arguments. I'm just trying to show that there is what to say about this, and there is what to rely on. By the way, just because you could find Kisvei Yad and you could count them like the Tame Torah did, found, the majority are like this. It's not a small minority. It's like 60-40. Maybe we haven't dug up enough Kisvei Yad yet. And maybe some are inherently better. The Keter Amtsova is pretty good. The Rambam says you should rely on that. Like Rav Turiel says, how do you know you can rely on Rambam for halacha? Because the Rambam said so. Okay, so you can rely on anything the Rambam did, but a lot of times we don't do like the Rambam. We're out to see Monday. We have examples of big example where the Vilna Gaon says no, we don't do like the Rambam in this case, right? You could do that. So I don't know. I don't know who tribes is the Trope of Katonti.